Okay, this is a topic that got asked about on my live stream again today, and I've talked about it before. And it's even more relevant than ever. And it's about why being a nerd doesn't make you special. So we got all this, we got all this social justice warrior stuff going on. You know what I mean, for better or worse. And there's a lot of fucking fake social justice warriors. Trust me. But there's also this. It's also pretty relevant in the fighting game community right now. And I can just say recently, I think it was a few days ago, I was talking to some friends and who were two black dudes and an Asian dude. And while we were talking about it, I laughed so hard about all this fake social justice warrior stuff. I actually had tears in my eyes. No joke. I started tearing up. We were laughing and just shaking our heads about how fake this shit is, right? Why is it so fake? So we hear about a lot about trying to make the fighting game community more inclusive. Well, I don't know if you know this, but the fighting game community is already incredibly inclusive. The fighting game community is already so, inclusive. What's the English word I'm looking for? Diverse. My English is bad. The fighting game community is already so diverse in the first place. It's one of the reasons there's so much hate in it, okay? And why is that? And it's not because of a black dude. It's not because of a white dude. It's not because of an Asian dude. Not because of an Indian dude. Not because of a gay dude, gay girl, transgender, whatever the person. It's everything, dude. Because the fighting game community has everything. That's why the fighting game community is such a fucking toxic shit fest, right? Because there are so many different dynamics in the fighting game community, all coming to a head in a competitive nature or environment, because it is inevitably a fighting game. It is inevitably competitive. And it's not this one specific race or demographic or ethnicity, whatever you want to call it. It's actually everybody, dude. And it's that specific person in these demographics, whatever English word you want to call it. It's the nerd is the problem, dude. It's the nerd who thinks he is special or she is special because she is a nerd. And I've talked about this before. This is what I'm talking about. If we're gonna if the nerd is racist, if you will, right? It's a nerd on nerd hate crime. When I first got into video games, I think like most people probably growing up, when we think of a nerd, right? Stereotypically, we think of something like, a fat white dude with glasses, pimples, or something like that. Or we think of, an Asian dude, nerdy Asian dude, glasses, numbers, whatever the hell, right? Pocket protector, whatever kind of stereotypical nerd you get, right? And I said this before, and I always tell people this. When I first got into video games, I realized the nerds, the most nerdy people, were not good at games, dude. Okay? When I first started going to tournaments, dude, when I realized I could, you know what I mean? I started beating all these dudes. These dudes that thought they were good at games. The dudes that were the most nerdy. They were often the worst. When I first started going to tournaments, I saw arcades. You know what? There were nerdy dudes at arcades, for sure. You know what I mean? There was the cliche nerdy dude, talking about anime all day, pimples all over, glasses. There's the cliche Asian dude, whatever, blah, 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 blah. But you know what I actually saw? I saw from the very beginning in video games, fighting games, whatever you want to call it. You know who were at the arcades? There's a lot of black dudes. And a lot of these black dudes were destroying these nerdy Asian kids. These nerdy fat white dudes, whatever dude, right? And from a certain perspective, idea as well, that's because, say, an arcade does not necessarily have to be in a, rich environment, you know what I mean? Or a rich part of town or something like that. It could be in a bad area of town. And maybe there's some black dudes, whatever kind of, people, whatever you want to say, demographic of ethnicities, minorities, whatever you want to call it, whatever human being, right? Whatever human being is there, dude. Maybe they don't want to be, it's the arcade's in a bad part of town. Maybe they don't want to be involved in drugs and violence or gangs or something like that. So maybe instead of doing that shit, they went to the arcade and they played video games. And now these dudes who you would not expect to be good at video games are beating the nerds, right? The cliche nerd, right? And if anything, the fighting game community is going to get even worse because the fighting game community is now trying to give out golden stars for these nerds, right? The fighting game community has been trying to take skill out of fighting games to make fighting games more of a math problem, right? You know, you got this nerd that's like, oh man, my whole life I was a nerd and I was unpopular. But now video games, it's quotation marks, cool to be a nerd, right? Even though Street Fighter is now bigger than it was before, trust me, but roll with me here. Even though this nerd is like, oh, it wasn't cool to be a nerd before. Now's my time. Now I'm a nerd. It's okay to be a nerd. Now being a nerd is accepted in society, and they go to play a video game, and guess what? Being a nerd does not make you special at a game. You might suck at it, dude. And they're like, fuck. And so they start trying to hate on everybody. I'm the nerd. Now is my time. Maybe there's some dude he didn't know he was gay before. He didn't think he could be accepted because he's gay. I'm gay and I play fighting games? I need 2 gold stars. Why am I not rewarded for this? What I grew up with in my childhood. Whatever, dude, right? Oh, you got someone. Oh, I was born a boy, but now I'm a girl. So now I'm in the fighting game community. Give me a special star and say that I'm good at a video game even though I've done absolutely fucking nothing. What about the black dude that didn't want to get into drugs? Doesn't he deserve a reward? He didn't want to he just is like, I'm going to play video games instead of getting involved in drugs and violence, whatever the fuck was going on around him, right? Where's his reward, dude? But you want a reward because you're a binary, transgender, social justice warrior, furry, whatever. The point is, dude, being a nerd doesn't make you special. There's nerdy black dudes, there's nerdy white dudes, nerdy Asian dudes, nerdy Indians, dude, whatever the fuck. There's nerdy gay dudes, nerdy transgender people, whatever the fuck, dude. But you're not special because you are a nerd. And the fighting game community is only getting worse because you're trying to give rewards to people for something that has nothing to do with the fucking video game. Okay? You're not special because you play a video game. Millions of people have played video games before. You don't deserve a reward because you're playing it. You need to actually do something of value, dude. And the fighting game community is only going to get worse because you're trying to say we're making it more inclusive. You can play video games. The fighting game community was already incredibly diverse in the first place. That's why there's so much fucking hate in the first place. Why do you think I get all the hate I get? The fighting game community is full of fucking mentally unstable fucking nerds that were mad that I was winning those tournaments as a kid, just playing for fun. Oh, that wouldn't really happen. Let's say it didn't happen. Oh, let's say Clayton hacked his medical record. Blah, 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 blah. The fighting game community was already full of a ton of mentally insane, fucking insecure people, dude. Trust me, it's already pretty fucking diverse, dude, right? So anyway, I just think it's so ridiculous because, you know what I mean? Look at this, dude. I've actually had some of these fake social justice warriors try to say that I'm homophobic and I'm transgender when I'm friends with one of the most famous transgender people on the internet, period, in real life. Got told that they recently tried to start Clayton is racist against black people because he likes big lips. So he must fetishize black people. I mean, do you see how fucking insane this fucking community is? Trust me, it's already inclusive enough. You don't need to be giving a reward to a fucking mentally retarded person for playing a video game. Okay? You'd be like, hey, you have a mental problem? Social justice warrior with me. Now's your time. It's okay to be a nerd. They didn't want you playing video games before. Dude, actually, they did want you playing video games before. I'm sure the video games have already had a bunch of fucking people from all over the place. It isn't changing, dude. So don't be giving rewards to people when they haven't done anything, okay? Did you get what I'm saying? It's fucking mental, dude. Absolutely fucking mental to me to be trying to do this fake social justice warrior stuff that the fighting game community needs to be more diverse when, trust me, the fighting game community is already pretty diverse. That's why there's so much hate in it in the first place. Because you have that demographic of the nerd in each, I don't know what you call it, minority, race, whatever the fuck is the English word. You got so many nerds from different specific people. You got white nerds, black nerds, Asian nerds, whatever the fuck, transgender nerds. And these nerds think they're more special than other people when they've never done anything. That's why there's so much fucking hate in the community in the first place. Do you know what I'm saying? I've talked about this before. Anyway, the end.